very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. CA Prasanna Kumar is a chartered accountant presently working as practice leader, statutory audits in Guru and Jana Chartered Accountants. He has a decade experience post-qualification in the firm and specializes in assurance services. Also in statutory audits with wide spectrum of startup audits, SME audits, and multi-billion dollar audits. His sectoral experience is in manufacturing industry, educational industry, software, financial institutions, and e-commerce. He heads the team of 20 members who is working predominantly in statutory audits, consolidations, and India's implementation services. He heads considerable number of clients and take care of end-to-end solutions. So with this brief, I hand it over to both the speakers, Shivkumar, CA Shivkumar and CA Prasanna. Sir, it's over to you.
Thank you for the introduction, sir. I'm privileged to attend the session here and take up the sessions for the Vijayawada branch. Thank you once again.
So I'll share the screen, what we have prepared it for the day. You were able to see the screen, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please go on. If you can enable this, what you call presentation mode, or yeah, that's.
Yes, sir. So thank you everybody for participating and joining with us on this webinar. We would like to share our thoughts and what do we do in a practice and what are the present changes in NGO sector to the extent what we know. And we are happy to take the questions at the end of the session and also update ourselves and share what we know. So with this introduction, today and tomorrow, we would be covering on importance of NGOs in the present era, structure of NGOs, and also audit of NGOs and practical insights. So we always see what has been given in a guidance note or what has been given in the study material is one aspect. When we get into the audits, what we look up and what are the practical challenges which we face, and by the way, NGOs faces, what is the amicable solutions which they look up for us, from us, what we would like to share from our practice. So I would be sharing more on the internal audit aspects or the special assignment aspects of an NGO, and my colleague Prasanna would be sharing on how do we deal it with the standards, how do we deal it when it comes to the statute. So with this brief introduction, I'll just move on to the second slide. So now in the present, probably we can see that last 4 to 5 years, the demographic changes in NGOs is predominant. So we all know that every place and every nook and corner of the country has some NGO, whether it is doing for a service or for the some charity. That some has been registered with the statute, some has not been registered with the statute. However, these are the NGOs for the good cause, and this is not owned by anyone. So, however, in the recent days, or recent, probably I can say half a decade or a decade, now the trends has been changing it. So, if you see that what are the demographic changes which is happening, one, move from confrontation to collaboration. Then the second, more selectivity around the partnerships, more increase in social ventures, more pressure on multi-stakeholder initiatives, more collaboration between NGOs, a rise in virtual campaigns. So these are the changes which is predominantly is bringing the NGOs to the next level to serve the nation, and also giving a platform to the various stakeholders to use their expertise. Getting insight, what is a collaboration? Probably what we can see is that campaigning against and collaborating with the companies. Now, with the recent government initiatives, amendment in the companies law, now these are the collaborations are very much important for a company or for an organization. Not only with the commercial organizations with NGOs to the other NGOs is very important to achieve the target and to spend as much as less possible on administrative cost. More society around partnerships. Successful NGO corporate engagements are likely to be time bound. Now, with the government initiative and with the upskill of the people across the nations, people have started the NGOs and in their respective experience field, I can say. So with this, NGO no need to provide a solution from end to end, which is required by the society. Probably one NGO is expertise in one aspect and another NGO is expertise in another aspect. This more selective around the partnerships will help them to assign or tie up with the one particular activity and get use of expertise of the another NGO. Nowadays, we can see where one NGO is giving it to the another NGO for a specific task and vice versa. So what are we going to achieve in this is that the administrative cost or the conveyance cost, which is spent to do the service, is substantially reduced is one. And the second one is that the use of expertise, probably NGO is in expertise in that industry where it will allow another NGO to use that expertise and serve for the nation. An increase in the social ventures, probably now the initiative or the realization which has been done after the COVID and before the COVID, people across the nations are sparing some of the amount or some particular amount has been for the social cause. Some industry stalwarts have started their NGOs, and when the entrepreneurs have started their NGOs or contributing their NGOs, their character or their thought process itself is that everything should be accurate, everything should be up to the mark. That's where NGOs trend has been changed and the results of NGOs also has changed. It is also allowing the innovative solutions for the NGOs. Probably I can say that one NGO is going to come up with a new idea with that, where I was explained like earlier, they can share the expertise and these industry stalwarts also will feel the sense that whatever they are spending, it is reaching it to the society with the right mode. More person, multi-stakeholder initiatives. Probably I can say I don't want to spend much time on this. This is a place where earlier for the namesake or for the branding sake where NGOs has been started and used, and they used to cater their services only for the specific area or specific reserve classes where they'll get recognized. Now with the present demographic changes, this is slowly going down. This and probably I can say that we will not be able to see in under 1-2 years where multi-stakeholders are driving these NGOs. More collaboration between NGOs. In this point, we can specifically practically see that one NGO is engaged in specific activity. Nevertheless, it receives the donation or it receives the fund for various activities and give it to the another NGO and get it done, that particular activity. Rise in virtual campaigns. We all know from last decade, we can see the websites, we can see the Twitter, LinkedIn, all where NGOs are using, NGOs are communicating and raising the funds. Going forward, it also goes to the next level. So where the communication, mobilizing the public with the viral or compelling campaign that break a human stories on the ground, faster and more connected ways. So now this is the place where the social media is placing a very vital role. With this and with the virtual campaigns, funds can be raised, and more important, we can also find out who is the intended beneficiaries, which is the area which is these services are required. So with these demographic changes, NGOs itself is upgrading it to the next level to cater the services to the nation or who is intended to receive that. So moving on, so Prasanna will talk on future of NGOs and how it is emerging it with the present trends.
Yes. Considering the NGOs demography, now the future will be NGOs and NGOs. To this initiative, a government or NCA has come with this corporate social responsibility, which is a mandatory for all the companies, which is having a net worth of more than 500 crores, which is having a turnover of 1000 crores, or which is having a net profit of more than 5 crores. How it is getting this involved? Now the corporates, whoever is doing the CSR, for them it is mandatory that to whom they are donating or whom they are giving this donation, that entity has to get registered. So whoever is that NGOs, whether registered, unregistered, they have to register under MCA compulsorily and get the CSR registration number and get it allotted. They have to file certain forms and get it. So it is only registered public sector trust now allowed as against any registered trust, except in case of established by central government or state government, where they have put some restrictions on such kinds. Even the foreign entity, in case if the Indian entity is giving a donation to the foreign nation, they also have to get registered under this, and they have to get that unique identification number. See the numbers when it compared from 2016-17 to 2020-21. From 14,344 to 24,000, the number is alarming. Here is the area where the chartered accountants can give their expertise, can give their devote time, and see what beneficial can it be for both as a profession and as a trust or as a NGO, what they can do in the nation building. Next, few are the famous NGOs, just to name: Child's Rights and You, Smile Foundation, Save the Children's, Bill Gates Foundation, Tata Trust, Infosys, Azim Premji, United Way, Rural Development in Anandpur. These are the very famous top few of the NGOs where the chartered accountants has already been contributing to the nation development as well as for the nation building. Going forward, the audit framework, I think, Shiva, what will be the audit framework for the NGOs?
So if you see that the type of NGOs, probably when we see in a practical or when we see in a general, we will not be able to differentiate what is a NGO or NPO, whether what is the difference between the trust or society or section 8 companies. So when we see the types of NGOs with the orientation and their operations, there are many. When it comes to the orientation, charitable, service, participatory, empowering. When it comes to the operations, community-based, city organization, national NGOs, international NGOs. Apart from all these, there are unregistered NGOs, and there is a NGOs which is registered but will not fit into this any of these categories, are unorganized, or I can say that which is not come under the radar of any act or any specific law which is running for the NGO. And I'll not say that they're not serving or they're not covered. Nevertheless, all has been covered and they're doing their justice to the society. So let us understand each one and what is the characteristics or what is the main USP of a particular type of NGO. So when we see that the charitable NGO, so it expects a minimal participation from the members or from the beneficiaries. It also helps to fulfilling the needs of the poor for food, clothing, shelter, housing society, water, hospitality, and list goes on. So the characteristic of charitable NGO is they will not expect any participation from the beneficiaries. There is a people who is voluntarily participate. Our organization will employ the persons who will be deployed on a project and get the results out. When it comes to the service NGOs, so it is main and campaign dedicated. Their focus is to let the people aware of particular aspect, and through the various channels, activities will be broken down into the programs. So again, these campaigns will not be restricted to the particular area or particular activity. It would be taking the platform, digital platform, and communicating and making the people aware what is their rights, what is their obligations, what is the present law in those aspects. When it comes to the activity, this would be broken into the programs. Programs again would be broken into the monthly schedules to the area schedules. This is how they closely monitor and ensure their objective is served. Active participation of the people. So when it goes to the beyond the geography or beyond the particular limits, I'm sure the NGO will not be able to have a bandwidth on each and every location. This is where they require the people who can participate in the programs and also make it successful and serve to the needy people. So we can see here that the key role for the organization is to have a multiple leaders at a multiple districts or multiple geography. Thereby, they can get the documentation, or they can see that the funds has been utilized properly and it has reached to the needy people. So here, every auditor will face a challenge that every rupee what has been received as a donation for a particular cause or a general class has been reached to the needy. When it comes to third kind of categories are participatory NGOs. So self-help projects. These people are probably a group of people in a one locality, or certain corporates of certain areas will get will incorporate an NGO to serve. Deployment of project by contributing in terms of money, land, tools, labor, material, etc. It's kind of a hybrid project where corporates are certain people who has formed as an NGO and contribute what they have. Probably somebody would pump the money, would have given a land for construction of an orphanage or construction of a school, and probably some people who has been who does not have enough work, probably they'll participate and help us in providing a labor services or a material services, and list goes on. So it's kind of a participation by the NGO organization trustees or organization management committee members along with their employees, and also needy people are the intended beneficiary also will be a part of this category. Empowering, again, goals to aid the needy ones. So this again empowering, it majoritarily it goes into the education or the women empowering, where to make sure they know their what is their obligations, what is their rights, what is their liabilities, and how what is the bad which is happening for them through the mass campaigns, through the education, through various teaching platforms. This gets accumulated and reached to the who is deserved for this information or who is eagerly waiting for this information. Moving on, again, a community-based, people's own initiative. I can say that sports clubs or educational organizations, educational alumni, and neighborhood organizations. So it is again purely based on their community and their geography. Here again, then when it comes to the city-wide, probably a one NGO is able to provide a one city or a two cities services which they require. We can categorize these Rotary clubs, Line clubs, coalition of businesses, chamber of commerce and industry. So it will be restricted to the one particular city, and it will be restricted to the one common objective in that city. When it comes to the national, again, it's beyond the geography. For example, the Red Cross professional organizations, YMCAs, YWCAs. Now recently yoga has added in these, which is a national NGO program to teach the yoga is become an NGO with the present government initiative. It also helps in states or the duty branches or provides support for the local NGOs. When it comes to the national NGOs, it might not have their presence in a particular location. Nevertheless, it will find out the NGO who is serving and a particular cause to that particular location and helps those NGOs. So one thing which we need to note here is that when national NGOs are providing aid to the NGOs, they ensure, or at least the national NGOs expects from the local NGOs the audit documentation, compliance with the laws, project feasibilities. All those things will play a key role. So we can say that some in very few places where we do the NGO audits, be it an internal audit or a statutory audit, we face some challenges over here when we try to give it an MIS to the, or when NGO tries to give it to the MIS to the NGOs. This is where probably we can say that being a chartered accountant can play our role to ensure it is compliance with the requirement of national NGOs. When it comes to the international NGOs, it's an extended arm, or I can say that a broader scope for the national than the national NGOs. So we can say that Redavi Arena, Seva Children Agencies, CARE, Arts Farm. These are the few well-known NGOs which serves across the world. It will not restrict it to their nation or their locality. So for them, the motivating factor is that the common cause or a particular topic. So irrespective of the geography, they wanted to drive that. So majorly, a few international NGOs has their presence in the country, and majority will go with the collaboration with the other NGOs who has also serving for the same cause. So, and some places, some NGOs we have seen where they have their own presence and they are also deploying the projects themselves. Again, it's when it comes to here, in addition to the national-wise NGOs, the regulatory kicks in. Regulatory also has imposed certain rules, certain terms and conditions to use the local NGOs and also to receive the funds by the local NGOs. Here is where critical to the local NGOs as well and international NGOs and to adhere to the compliances. This is one of the area where a practicing chartered accountant can ensure that the funds what has been received from the international NGOs has been spent for the cause and also has complied with the has complied all laws and regulations with the national interest. So few of the places where I can tell one NGO which has been formed from Bangalore is helping to save the soil and also helping to get the organic food than the chemical food so that future generations or land for future generations has been saved. So here it is a collaboration between the many state governments. I can say that even Andhra government is a part of this with this NGO. So I can say that the governmental organizations and the local NGOs from Andhra Pradesh, NGO from corporate NGO from the Bangalore and South Africa, New Zealand, Kenya, all these places, they are into the majorly serving for the agricultural products and fertilizers and soil aspects. They're looking at the main objective is them for to save the soil for future generation and also save the present lives from the chemical ingredients. So we can say here the complex structures, what they do, the terms and conditions, what they pose when it comes to the international amount. I can say that more than a corporate reports or a corporate MIS, these local NGOs has to support, has to provide the details in detail to the international NGOs and in return to the government. So if you see that these are the few types of NGOs which is serves or which is taken their own characteristics and serving for a various causes and serving for a various aspects who is intended to receive these benefits are the needy people. Moving on to the challenges faced by NGO, Prasanna, I request you to take it up.
Yes. After going through so many number of NGOs which are operating in India and worldwide, whether it is easy for them or are they facing any challenges, or as accountants, whether can we do anything for them or help with our expertise, can we do something for them? What are the challenges faced by the NGOs? Let us take or let us jump into that. The first and foremost is the lack of credibility. Today in this world, where the website is there, where a number of telephone numbers, everything, we get anonymous call from any of the organization telling that we are doing this part of NGO, please can you donate? Many of the calls will go unattended or the donation might not go. Why? The first and foremost reason will be the lack of credibility. As a person who will be donating, we will not know whether the other person who is receiving the donation, whether they are legal, illegal, whether it is anonymous call. So that lack of credibility is there. So as an accountant, can we help them to get in compliance with various laws and regulations so that their NGO gets a stand in the already discussed NGO type? Next, getting people to support the NGO. There are many NGOs where the number of human resources are less. They have a vision, they have a mission, but they don't have a support. Either as an accountant, can we do something? Can we clean up their books? Can we help them to be clean and get the support for them? Next is the lack of maintenance. See, the NGOs is not restricted only to the cities. There are many NGOs in the villages as well as urban, rural areas. Lack of maintenance will make feel the donors whether they will be able to deliver whatever is given to them. Hence, the donor may take a step back until since the maintenance is not there. How this will be able to do justice to the other or the society. Next, the proposal. Even when the NGO approves or go with some donors, how the presentation will be, how they are going to represent themselves, what will be the proposal. Has the NGO has got a clarity on what they are going to do, how they are going to do, what are the steps they have taken. At that stage also, there might be a questions raised by the donor. So as an accountant, can we help them? It is not just a practicing accountant, but also the accountant who will be working in the NGOs. Can they help the organization to get the donation? Or can there be a clarity on how the proposal has to be done? Or what will be the things the NGOs are going to cover? Next will be no strategic planning. Now the proposal has come, now the donation has come, but how are they going to use that funds? There is no strategic plan at the top management. Whether as a chartered accountant, whether as an accountant working under NGO or as an auditor, can we help them is a question. NGOs under government scanner. This can be a positive as well as a negative. Positive for the one NGOs who are doing good and who are there to do good. Negative for the ones NGOs who are not in compliance with any of the statutory requirements. Getting right people on board. This is where the crux of the entire thing is. The top management should be very clear in their mission as well as vision. Who the board member is, whether he is a high net worth individual, whether he has the intention to do the social service, or whether he has intention to just take the donations and keep it. Absence of networking. This is one of the very important criteria in the current world. Absence of networking will make the NGOs dull. When there is no network, if it is a single NGO, they will not be able to render the service, or their approach will be restricted to one or two of the entities or the society. As Shiva was explaining, now the collaboration with the corporates, bigger corporates, and with other NGOs has to happen so that the networking has to develop and the NGOs can reach out to the society at the earliest. The technology is one of the biggest advantage for the current NGOs. How is the technology important? Today, as Shiva was explaining, virtually you can reach out to the millions of people all across the world, not only in India, all across the world, and represent your NGOs, what they are doing, how they are compliant, what are the statutory requirements they have been done. Do they have a report based on that? So technology plays a very important role for the NGO and their development as well. The impact study, this I will cover it later little bit, how the impact of the NGO has happened and what they are developing and how a chartered accountant can be the key role in the impact study.
So just to add on this point of time, so impact studies, and I would like to stress that two more practical examples when it comes to the proposals and when it comes to the impact studies. Any NGO is facing the problem to give a proposal and also to ensure they stick to the proposal. So the proposal what they have given can be linked to the impact studies what they are going to provide. So as I was explaining, there is a one organization with a collaboration with the state governments and the national NGOs and international NGOs for the very big cause. Here is the challenge where what they face. I can see with my practical experience where NGO has presented a proposal along with the timelines. When it when it is closely working with the state governments and other governmental organizations, it is not able to reach to the timelines, or it is always not able to provide the information or not able to provide the statistics with the uh, national NGOs or the international NGOs. This is where, though it is doing it for good, because of acting as in a silos rather than acting as in a team, they were not able to. There is a multiple dependencies. They have to depend on the local NGOs, then state governments, then national NGOs. On top of that, regulatory compliances is not able to cater as per the proposal which has been given it to the international NGOs. This is where exact challenge, and this is where exactly where multiple scrutinies. So NGO would have been served for right, or only it is in a slow, or it is not able to get the data and provide it to the donor. This is where exactly the trust of the NGO or the confidence to the donor goes down. Here is the place where a chartered accountant, or for that matter, anybody who is expertise in that particular field, and help through the networking. Suppose a member who belongs to the high governmental organizations and who has a charisma to get the things done, would help NGOs to reach their timelines and also match the actual with their proposed timelines and proposed results. Over to you, Prasanna.
Now we have already seen the NGOs, what are the different types. Now when it comes to statutory, how the organization or how the incorporation will happen. There are three types of incorporation. For example, a NGO established can be registered as a trust under the Trust Acts. It can be registered as a society under the Societies Registration Act, or in our own under Section 8 companies under the Companies Act of 2013, which has given a very broad and very deep dive for the Section 8 NGO companies. All these acts apply to the entities as per their choice of constitution. It is not that compulsory for any of the trust to register under as a trust or register as a companies. It is dependent on their build, network, technology they use. They can establish as well as them. And also depending on how they have registered, the network will also be built, and the scope also for the donations or for the contribution or for the reach to the society will be on a higher side.
So would like to add one more. So the trust or NGO, any NGO has their own choice to select where it has to get registered. Probably I can say that the register under Companies Act will add the mileage. From that we will discuss either today or tomorrow, depends on the time how we progress on this. Now going forward, the future for NGOs is as per the as which is registered under Companies Act. But nevertheless, it is not restricting the growth, or it is not restricting the future of NGOs which are registered under trust or societies, but it will add a multiple benefits or multiple weightages which is registered under Companies Act. Now, with a brief background and developments which is in the recent era and which is going to be in future, and kind of in a different NGOs, how they function, what are the challenges they faces when they go for an implementation of a program, or pitch for it to get the donations.
Sorry, there is some network issue. As Shiva was discussing the various types of audits, here are the places where a CS will be playing a role. What are the different types of audit the NGOs will be taking care? First and foremost will be the external audit. As usual, it will be the statutory audit, which will be done by a practicing chartered accountant. And the reporting will be to the board of trustees in case if it is registered as a trust or a society. And it will be to the shareholders or the members in case if it is registered under Section 8 companies. Next will be the internal audit. It will be more on the management. The reporting will be to the management. The management will appoint a chartered accountant, external chartered accountant internally to check whether they are in compliance or whether there are any areas of improvements. And third will be measure of the donor audits, where the donor, whether it is a national donor, international donor, high net worth individuals, where they need a specific audit for the funds which has been given to them. I think Shiva is online. Maybe you can take over. Sorry for the inconvenience.
Not able to pick up.
I think the host has to enable to present.
Sir, I'll do it, sir.
Okay, thank you. I was discussing on the donor audits, where the donor will specifically tell to the NGO that they will be donating X amount, but I need an external certificate by a chartered accountant on the usage, how it will be used, what are the utilization, how it has been spent. So that is where the audit report will be specifically addressed to the donors. I think many of the members would have done few of the NGOs where they would have given the utilization certificate. So that is nothing but a specific donor related to audits. And the final one will be the investigation audit, where it may be very statutorily required by any of the organization, and it is not as normal as a compliance. Wherever the authorities feel that there is some fraud happening or there is some investigation needed, that alone will welcome to the forensic audit.
So sorry for the inconvenience. So as Prasanna was explaining it, external audits to represent the statutes. When I say a statute, we also just seen that NGO can register either under a trust or a Societies Act or a Companies Act. So the respective societies, or I can say that their articles or memorandums or articles and memorandums will insist that as per the once in a year an independent chartered accountant should do an audit. So here it is as usual, we also express our opinion and also given a reliance to the stakeholders. So here an auditor objective is more on explaining or giving an opinion to the BOG members or the person, independent trustees, or probably who has been contributed the money, and also to the government that as the company or the NGO has been complied with all aspects or not. So here we usually what we used to do it in a normal audits will go here. When it comes to the internal audits to the trustees, so here is where nowadays we are getting or we are providing a many proposals for NGOs that they wanted to get it done a policies and procedures audit and information to the trustees are risk highlighting. So when a little more spending on time on the policies and procedures, how it is relevant, like other corporate bigger entities, is that based on these policies and procedures, these policies and procedures are also forming part of the proposal or forming part of the pitch document where they want to get the funds, and they are, it also explains that what are the commitment or what is the integrity of the board members or integrity of the trustees, and what is their vision, and on what controls they have it to ensure every amount is being spent properly, has been they wanted to emphasize on these matters. When it comes to the information to the trustees, again, as we discussed, now some NGOs is not restricted to the one area or one aspect, it is across the globe. Now, through the internal audits, through the, again, we can say that a panel of auditors or panel of auditors are the same audit across the India or across the globe with their associates, with their networks. They're insisting more. They're going to achieve through this is that the standardization and also a checks and balances which has been consistently performed across all the branches or across all the locations where NGO has a presence. A risk highlighting. So this risk highlighting, we can practically say that we have come across where our same trustees, but it has been handled by the different in charges in a different states or the different locations. The process has been different, the way they operate is different, and the way they maintain the information is altogether would be the different. When it comes to the on a global level or on a national level, they wanted to present, they're going to spend too much time on arranging the data and presenting it to the various stakeholders or the various trustees. So in this case, some places, some risks has been handled very well, and some places risk has not been handled at all. So this is where exactly the learning curve or learning edge the every member of a NGO gets when it has been appointed by one internal auditor across India or multiple internal auditors with a stringent policies and procedures, stringent formats which has been circulated down to the respective NGOs. Here is where internal audit is helps to the respective people that whether policies and procedures across the nation, across the geography is same, and also the information what has to be maintained, what is required by the trustees is also maintained in the standard formats. And with these two, any risks or any non-compliances at the statute level or at the policies and procedures level will get highlighted. So with this information, the NGOs are able to get the information in a standard format across all, and also they are ensuring that no NGO is missing out something, or no NGO is not following or not complying with some laws, or probably the particular in charge of a location or particular team of the location is finding it difficult, or they're not aware what is the solutions which are available. Will bring it to the board level or a trustees level. Thereby, they can also take an initiative and direct the respective location NGO to implement this so that the common objective has been met. When it comes to the donor audits, nowadays, as per the Companies Act also, they have to ensure that to claim a CSR, they have to mention in their director's report saying that what is the contribution, and also in specific whether it has been spent during the period is paramount important now. So to ensure that the amount has been spent and which has been given it to the respective NGOs is a key here. So that is the reason where donors are insisting on an independent audit of a particular program expenses, and also a certificate from a chartered accountant. Some places, some NGOs we have seen where they do not want any certificate from the statutory auditors or internal auditors of the particular NGO. They wanted altogether a different chartered accountant to certify and tell that what is the donation has been given and whether the amount has been spent for the said purpose, and that actual amount has been spent within the year which has been given in the donation. Also, the terms and conditions which has been dictated by the donors, the timelines which has been dictated by the donors has been met or not. So here a chartered accountant is not expressing his opinion, he is giving a certificate to the donor. So I'm sure every member will take a due care when they are giving the certificates. But nevertheless, we have faced one or two places where we have certified based on the supporting documents. The questions which has been faced is that how are you certifying it? Is it physically looking at the program or physically looking at the impact which has been created with the project which they have given a contribution, or a mere documentation? Is a one question which we have faced it. Unfortunately, we also could see that that is which is in within the Karnataka, and we've also seen that how the project is getting implemented, and also the documents how it has been reached to the needy people. So when we certify, there's no we all members given a due care that this has been subject, this certificate is subjected to, or this certificate is for this certificate is based on what is our assumptions, what is the stance which we have taken, what is the information which management has been provided. Nevertheless, as a one extra mile, donors are asking that being a chartered accountant or being a certifying member and a firm, how are you ensuring that a document itself is not sufficient? The funds has been reached to the needy people. How is impacting? How is these funds or this spent of funds has been impacting the needy people? So that's where it also, one is we being a members, we safeguard ourselves with the disclaimers and with the professional due care. Second, probably we will have to take it as a positive side that this is my contribution to the society by looking at how the funds has been spent in project or in real practical ground. This is where exactly the donors are getting confidence. And also yeah, we do understand the NGOs will not allow you to visit the sites in all cases. Probably we will have to again make a comment that this is our contribution to the social cause, or we are going beyond what we have what is our purview, just to ensure and just also to help you by having a vote or by emphasizing that the funds has been utilized. Thereby donors also will get a positive vibes on the NGO, and also they refer for other group companies, I can say, or where the independent directors are directors of another company, or independent directors of another big multinational companies will have a word at the board. Thereby NGOs will get the fund, and ultimately the objective of NGO and objective of NGO ecosystem is served. So when again when we give the donor audits, there are places where we have given a month on month, or where we have given an annually or once in a year, just to ensure that the corporate whatever the NGO amount has been given it to the NGOs has been spent. Thereby there is no need to give an explanation, or no need to give a note, or no need to face the consequences under Companies Act. So moving on to the investigative audits. So it is linked to the again donor audits and internal audits. When we do the donor audits and internal audits, there are also some places where we suspect, or where being a certifying authority, being an internal auditor, we are not so confident that the project has been met for the met its objective, or the beneficiaries has been benefited duly, or is there any other manipulation, or is there any other bad way to show it has been made, but nevertheless it is not reached to the needy people. So here is where when we suspect, when we apprise to the trustees, apprise to the donors, they also allow us, or they appoint altogether a different auditor to get another spectacle on the program. They also ask on a particular expenses to investigate. Here is where here if it is in a one NGO is located to the one place, we might not be able to do the wonders, or able to crack it until unless there is a clear manipulation among the trustees and the employees of an organization, or there is a favored group of beneficiaries which can project to the document saying that these are the beneficiaries who are intended and it has been served. But when it comes to the network NGOs, where when I say network NGOs, they have a multiple branches, or they probably would have given a franchise, or they would have come across as a network NGOs. This is where exactly we can also one or two places we have seen where the vendor is same, the vendor is supplying material or supplying the project needs from Bangalore, whereas project is in Vijayawada. There's no need. It is not a monopoly or OEMs where only a one manufacturer has to provide or one survey, one trader has to serve. We have seen, and when we get these kind of links, we also go one more step. Let us see across the network. This is where exactly getting the access to the top management and getting the permissions to get an access for the information across the NGOs is a little difficult. But nevertheless, if you have a suspicious and if you're able to connect the dots, then we will get a permission and probably we can nail it out, whether it is any a group of people is trying to manipulate and trying to deviate the funds or misuse of the funds. But never, we have seen many places where they have also allowed to get an access with other network subjected to that particular information. And one or two cases we have nailed it out also, saying that so the vendor is supplying across the India, but he is not only the service provider. When we do this, the transportation cost and the maintenance cost, inventorying cost is going up. Never, we are not questioning that whether it is correct or not, but if you see that 5 to 10% cost which has been received for a particular cost is gone on the administrative aspects. And also we also have seen that where these people, these network NGOs charge inter NGO charges, says that I have maintained this, I'm charging 2% or 5% for this. This all goes under the administrative cost. Probably again, these administrative costs are well within the limits, but the thing is that we could have managed it in 1%, whereas it has gone up to the 3% or 4%. So I cannot say, or we will not be able to nail it out exactly what is the fraud which is happening over there. Is one, if it is a real fraud and if all circumstances and the environment or documents permits to us, we will be able to figure it out and present it to the trustees and the donors, or probably to the statute. If not, I'm sure in each and every assignments we have taken up in this area, we were able to save the cost and reduce the administrative cost, or probably could have avoided, but it has been taken and making the money. But nevertheless, statute also is very clear that any profits or any surplus funds cannot get distributed to the trustees or the members either through the dividend or share of profits. It will be there with the NGOs. But in these places, there is a funds leakage which has been observed. Then provide a more evidence. This, as I was explaining it, these are the dots which we can connect and probably iron it out that the cost can be saved, or there is a manipulation among the trustees, or probably one favored vendors or a favored groups are getting benefited, can be avoided. So I'll hand it over to Prasanna to take up on the SA21.
Yes. After going through the lengthy sessions of the NGO, now comes the real role of a chartered accountant. When we enter into a NGO as an auditor or as an investigator or as an internal auditor, what are the terms of audit engagement? That is one of the crux or very important. The members may ask why it is important that as an auditor, I need this engagement or initial engagement to be drafted or to be recorded. I will tell you. Now we have seen so many audits which has been undertaken. As Shiva has explained, there are so many audits: internal audit, external audit, donor audits, investigation audit, whatnot. But as an auditor, when we are giving a certificate, do we have the clarity of what we are going to do? That is the important thing. This is where the audit engagement will play a very important role. First, with respect to the statutory audit, financial reporting framework is acceptable. Say, for example, the NGO is giving its financial statements, it's releasing its financial statements. Whether the financial reporting framework is acceptable by a chartered accountant or not, that is what we need. I agree or I understand that for a trust or a society, there is no format of balance sheet or there is no abided law for them that you need to present your financials in this format itself, or you need to give the income and expenditure in this process itself. But whenever it is under a Section 8 Companies Act, the Companies Act has already given the format in which it has to present its financial statements. Then the members might ask why. For other NGOs, whether it is applicable. No, it is applicable. Since it is an NGO, there is no hard and fast rule for them that they have purchased a fixed assets and they have charged it off to P&L or income and expenditure statement. No, that is not correct. When a member come to know such kind of things, they will definitely not agree. So that is where the importance of financial reporting framework, whether it is acceptable or not. There are certain accounting principles based on which the financial statement is prepared. And that principle or policies is applicable even to a NGO, which is a not-for-profit organization as well. Next is agreement of the management responsibility. First, as auditor should be clear, or the auditor should make themselves clear that, see, these are the things which the management has to be responsible. Say, for example, the preparation of financial statement, which is an easy one, which I can tell. As an auditor, it is not the duty of the auditor to prepare the financial statements. It is the responsibility of the management to prepare the financial statement and provide it for auditors to do their job. So that should be very clearly documented in the engagement letter. Preparation of the financial statement as per the applicable framework. Say, for example, a Companies Act, the balance sheet format has already been provided. Profit and loss account, the format is already there, which can be adopted. Even the same format can be adopted for the trust as well as society, and it will be useful for them. And even in the Income Tax Act, the preparation of financial statements will be very important, because when they file the ITR, the basis will be the financial statement which is signed by the trustees as well as the auditors. Next, with relevant fair presentation, places of internal controls. This is another responsibility which the management has to be taken care of. The auditor, when they are initially entering into any engagement with any of the NGOs, should be clear that the internal controls will be the responsibility of the management. As an auditor, the auditor has to see whether the internal controls are in place or whether it is not in place, and accordingly report, so that it can be useful for the NGO for the betterment, or they can take advantage of it and ensure that that internal controls are placed so that the NGO will get a good donors in the future. Ensure financial statements are free from material misstatement. This is another responsibility of the management, where the management will tell the financials, whichever has been prepared by the trustees or the board of directors or management and provided you for the audit, is free of material misstatements. But how they will tell? Is there any law or is there any rules? Yes, there are certain set of accounting policies which has already been discussed. Say, for example, the purchase of fixed assets. Even if it is a Companies Act under Section 8 companies, or if it's a trust, it has to be shown as a fixed assets. Say, for example, if any of the donor has given some assets as a donation to the trust, can the trust charge it off to the income and expenditure in the first year itself? No. As an accounting principle which is commonly followed, it is generally accepted across all, it has to be shown as a fixed assets. But what is the value? That depends on the management. It can be shown as a 1 rupee, or it can be shown at the whatever is the amount, purchase amount, and then depreciate. That is a different thing. So that is how the management or the trustees has to ensure that the financial statements are free from material misstatement. Access to all the information, records, documentation, and other matters. See, once the financial statement is received, all the documents, relevant information, records, and other matters has to be provided for the auditor, and access has to be given. As an auditor, I have to form an opinion on that financial statement, stating that it is free from material misstatements. But just because it is an NGO or it is registered as a non-profit organization, can I do without checking the information or without checking the records? That is not possible. As an auditor, a due diligence has to be done. The diligence has to be done, the verification has to be done, the vouching has to be taken care, and everything. And in the engagement letter, it has to be clearly mentioned that the management will provide access to all the information, records, documents, matters. Say, for example, if the management shows X amount as donations received during the year, the respective management has to provide the details of the donors. Who are the donors? What is the individual contribution? How many of them are corporates? How many of them are non-corporates? Have they given the required documents, whether it has been taken care? All the records has to be provided for the auditor when they are doing the audit. So everyone will accept when these information are provided, the audit will go smoothly. Next will be the unrestricted access to the person within the entity. You think just by giving the records, whether they will be able to do the audit? Say, for example, if any clarification is needed, I need to discuss with the person who has prepared that report. Say, for example, if a BRS has to be verified, I cannot just see the BRS. As a member, everybody will ensure that the BRS has to be seen. Who has done that BRS? Whether that person is available, can I discuss with him? Or I need to some sort of clarification for the donation received. I ensure whether that foreign currency, whatever is received, the foreign donation, whether that person, whoever is maintaining that, has he doing his part of job properly? Can I check it? This unrestricted access to the person within the entity also has to be given. It is not just the information or the records. Even though in the current world after COVID, there are many audits which are going online. Or is still that information, whether the people are still restricted? Even virtually, they can connect and do the audit. But still, the unrestricted access to the people as well as the information has to be given. By doing all this, and next, what are the other conditions which the management has to be there? Limitation on the scope. If any auditor need, say for example, under the Companies Act, there is no restriction on the auditors or the trustees to share the documents. But as a trust, in case if it is registered as a trust or a society, the trustees may have some hesitation to share the documents. Say, for example, they have received a foreign donation. The details might not be shared with the auditor. Is it that, okay, since it is a foreign, it has come through the FCR account, I need not check the documents? No, that is not the case. The management cannot put any restriction or limitation on the scope of the auditor. They cannot tell you need not verify the payroll because the amount which I have spent is for the purpose of the object or the vision or the mission which the NGO has formed. Can I take that statement blindly and agree with the management and take a restriction on the limitation of scope? No, that is not acceptable. The auditor should be very crystal clear. Whenever there is a limitation on the scope, the auditor need not accept the engagement. Or for the beneficial of auditor as well as the management or the NGO, they can tell, see, they can come to an agreement and ensure that whatever is required for the quality of the audit can be taken. And whichever is the confidential information where the trust feel it can hamper or it can damage this one, need not be shared. But whatever is required for an auditor to form an opinion on that particular financial statements or the financial reporting has to be taken. At the end of the day, in case if the still management resist to share the information, it is up to the auditor. They can withdraw the engagement and it can tell the management that, see boss, since you have put the limitation on the scope, let us not take up this assignment. I think I can come out. There can be any other member who can do the audit. So these are the crystal and clear engagement which has to be entered before the job is taken up by the auditor. And This is not restricted only to the statutory audit. The conditions for the audit of internal audit will be still more. Say, for example, the management can give only some portion of the entire financial. Say, for example, the management wants donation to be reviewed in depth. So they can include only those as a part of their audit engagement. So whatever is related to the donations, whenever the management needs or whenever the auditor needs, can be put in the part of engagement letter. I can just show you the engagement letter which we as an organization follow. The scope can be as detailed as who is the party to whom we will be reporting. In case of a statutory audit, it will be generally the members. In case of a trust, it will be trustees. And in case if it is an internal audit, it will be to the specific management. In case of a donor, it can be various parties as already discussed. So each parties, there can be a separate engagement letter. There can be a separate scope of work. But statutory work is already defined in the act, so I will not be taking too much. But in case of internal audit or a donor specific audit or an investigative audit, it can be a specific area which has to be mentioned. And the team who will be undertaking the responsibility, what is their experience, everything can be mentioned in the engagement letter. Depending on the audit, what will be undertaken, what will be the time required. Say, for example, the statutory, generally it will be 30 to 45 days. Or internal audit, depending on the scope, it can go up to 1 month, it can go up to 2 months, depending on the NGO and depending on the area of verification, whatever is being given. It depends on that, that can be taken. Ensuring that the data security, say, for example, the trust, whichever has received the donation, they might have little bit of hesitance whether the member will maintain the confidentiality of the data. That also can be part of the engagement, telling that stating, see, as a member, I will be ensuring that the data security is there or the confidentiality is there. It will be between the NGO and the auditor. So it will not be shared with any of the third party unless there is some law or regulation or authorities being questioned. So that can be forming part of the engagement letter. The confidentiality already discussed. The commercial terms, again, it depends, and it will be the part of discussion between the auditors and the NGO, depending on what is the nature of the job, how much that can be agreed upon. And other points to be noted, if there are any other things which the auditor wants to clarify the management. Say, for example, the donation to be verified will be only restricted to the foreign funds received. That can be placed here. What all the other things? Say, for example, in case if the auditor wants to tell, okay, I will be restricting my verification or my watching only to the extent of donations received and not for the utilization. So that can be crystal clear put in the engagement letter so that the management also will be clear. Okay, the auditor is covering only up to the donation received and not the utilization part. So that can be taken care. Force majeure clause, I think after COVID, it is one of the important things which will be there. Future engagement, depending on what auditor and the things that can be taken. So this is one of the format which generally use it for the engagement letter.
So based on the Prasanna's explanation, I feel though it has been kept it for tomorrow, I thought I can show the internal audit report which has been prepared or probably which has been presented across at this point of time when we say that the scope limitation are you're able to see the Prasanna? So with the when it comes to the internal audit, I also can see that the scope limitation, when it comes to the scope limitation, or as I was explaining it earlier, the same policies, same procedures, same policies and same procedures across the network NGOs will have a which we clearly put it that what is our scope, whether it has been agreed as per the engagement letter or not. There are cases where some NGOs will go particularly into the particularly looking at the scope document which has been signed by the trustees. Probably the trustees would be okay to take up any other area as and when we progress the audit, but nevertheless the execution team will not allow you to touch other areas. So the engagement letter, as Prasanna was explaining it, is crucial. Whether engagement letter allow applicable under any specific law, or it's a precautionary measure by a chartered accountant, or to have a clear communications with the trustees or the NGOs, engagement letter plays a pivotal role. And also the listing out the scope, what we are covering will help us to protect ourselves tomorrow something goes wrong other than the audited areas, are the areas which we have audited and found by somebody else. There we can also substantiate that this is the data or this is the audit documentation which we have collected during the audit. Later, it is not within our control is one. And the second one is that by listing out the scope in the reports, it also helps us to safeguard that that area has been out of the scope and we were not aware of any transactions which has taken place in that particular gamut. So again, our reports usually keeping in the mind of a high-end trustees or the top authorities, we will also classify the area. It is good to classify what is the high, medium, low, and is it because of the design deficiency when it comes to the networking NGOs, or execution deficiencies, policies and procedures have been placed properly, but they've not executed, and there is no force who is sitting at that location is able to get it done the work or maintain the documentation as required, or the system limitations. Some places because of the budget constraint, because of the just to cover up the entire operational expenses into the limited amount which has been allocated for a by the statute, systems wouldn't have been implemented. There, getting the information and even being an auditor to assure to ensure that the sufficient care has been taken care and objective is met is critical. So if you see that the some of the points where I was talking about that across the locations, the same process, or across the locations, the same issue has been identified or same issue has been concentrated. This is how probably we can help the management to explain that this is not available with across the locations. For the confidentiality sake, I've removed the locations which we have done this audit. So project tracker, Excel or software capturing all receipts and disbursals has not been maintained. So this is the key. As I was explaining it, a proprietariness is involved in NGO audits. In a normal scenarios, once I collect the document and the document is genuine, I no need to go dig until unless I come across some of the incident or some of the indication that there is a suspicion that there is a fraud or there is something else which we need to look into that. But when we do the NGOs, when we especially when you provide an utilization certificate, this is the place. Or when you are being a tax auditor, you are certifying that 85% amount has been spent for the project. To have that when the NGO takes up the more takes up the donation from the more donors and also executes the multiple projects, the first point plays a pivotal role. So when you see at a project level, you know what is the amount received from a particular donor and what is the spend has been done for that project. When you see it up at a overall, when you are looking at a specific project or a specific donor, there are high chances which is the supporting documents being provided to you for a particular project also be the supporting document for the other project. That's where exactly this tracker helps, that what is the total receipts the NGO has been received, and also what is the total disbursement or expenses has been done. Until unless this tracker is there, I'm sure somebody of all members would have faced the issue, if not for the NGO, at least for the other commercial places where the cost center based or a profit center or the business unit wise accounts has been maintained. until unless they have the tracker or their software allows to track, allows to map what is the total receipts, what is the total expenses, whether any particular expenses has been considered under the two projects or more. Without these data, it would be extremely difficult. And being a chartered accountant, when we show and when we do the internal audit or when we do the fund utilization certificate, we will not be able to 100% confidently tell that the funds has been used and there is no misuse and there is no duplication of the expenses which has been booked, or the chances that the same supporting document is giving it to the multiple projects and saying that the project expenses have been done. So this plays a pivotal role. And purchase order tracker for orders raised for a different direct implementation of the project. So again, here is that some places where they directly get it done, some places they will give it to the NGOs. When the hybrid methodology has been followed by the NGO, purchase orders is also a pivotal role. Again, very funny things happens over here is that you have raised the purchase order and during the year and materials, everything has been received on 31st March. But when we do give a certificate as on 31st March, I feel a member also should look at what is the kind of a material which we have raised the purchase order and what is the general lead time and when it has been received by the NGO. Mere receipt of the material to the NGO doesn't mean that the NGO has spent. Probably these items would have kept as an inventory at a project location, though there is no concept of inventory in many NGOs, but this is also insights to the auditor saying that, so we are certifying it to the donor based on the document, which is the purchase order and which is the invoice as on 31st March. So I'm sure when the donor wants to claim as a CSR expenses for the particular year and invoice has been raised on the last day of the year and it is reached somewhere in April, May, I'm not sure, probably a professional judgment or the tolerance or risk what auditor takes, that is a crucial. When you certify that it has been implemented, it has been spent, but in ground reality, material has been received but not been spent on a particular project. Yes, of course, there are a few cases where we have given a note saying that so the particular the project requires these are the items and the general lead time is so and so. However, this has not been received within the limits, or the vendor has not been complied with the terms and conditions which has been mentioned in the PO. All the items has been received on 31st March, but when it has gone to the project as a part of the project in somewhere in April, May, June, then we will not be able to tell that the amount has not been spent. We would be giving the certificate somewhere in June, July. By the time it would have gone and embedded into the project. But when we certify as I'm sitting on June, July, for 31st March, I think ideal tax needs to be disclosed saying that this is the material which has been received, however, spent on a later case. So again, it gives to the, it's a professional judgment of a donor auditor whether to consider it has been spent or not, or the donors also allow the NGOs to use this practice or not. It's all, what I feel is that being a member, when you are giving the donor certificates or when you're doing the donor audits, this has to be ironed out and put it across in the reports so that the information flows to the respective stakeholders, admin receipt trackers and their use thereof. So these again the reports, some places the reports has been, there is a software which will allow you to download a multiple reports. Some places, some NGOs has not been seen at all, but that is also very important to have a control over the expenditure. So this is how when we listed down the points across all the locations, it gives a sense to the top management or the national NGOs or international NGOs, how do they monitor, where they need to concentrate to ensure funds has been flowed. When it comes to the documentation of the due diligence of the NGOs or the process conducting the due diligence of implementing the NGO is to be onboarded. This is where exactly when I was taking in the first slide, I said that the collaboration is going to be a huge and that's going to be the future. Here, I'm suppose being a NGO is also giving the fund or is getting it done the project implementation by another NGO. How do you ensure that that NGO has been onboarded with the dues and care? Here also one more case where a management manipulation or certain people of pollution can get in. Being a one NGO has taken the funds and is given it to the another NGO where they have a personal interest or where they have a interest or where these NGO is serving for the certain set of people. So the probably due diligence of an NGO plays a crucial role to when it while reaching its objective. Then again, as Prasanna was explaining it, some places, some NGOs, no standards or standards and auditing or accounting standards directly might applicable, but it will indicate to be followed. Accrual concept is one of the concept where many NGOs feels that no act is applicable to us, or no law or regulatory is looking on them, and no standards and auditing or no accounting standards are directly applicable to them. This is where they won't allow you to do perform cutoff procedures and take a necessary reversals, either expenditure reversal or the donation spent reversal. So again, the question is that how does it impact? It impacts when we certify whether the particular NGO has been spent 85% to claim the benefit or not. So here here these checks will play the major role. Accrual system has to be followed, or if some places the NGOs, old NGOs where it has got incorporated 15-20 years, where these rules and regulations or the authorities are not looking very closer, those people will not allow you to look into this system or agree for the reversal of an expenses or reversal of an uh, application of funds. So here again, professional judgment should be involved, and also we'll have to educate the trustees. Always we can expect that NGOs has run by not the finance professionals. There are the other department, veterinaries are handling it. They might not be well versed with the financial implications. As again coming to the SOP policies of various processes, probably some has been followed, some has not been followed, are blacklisted NGO partners. So here is a funny when we verify across the network NGOs. So Delhi NGO has been blacklisted ex-vendor, and that guy is right rightly onboarded in Hyderabad, or right rightly onboarded in the Bangalore. This is where is the common information or the information on a online basis or at a global level helps other NGOs not to waste the time or not to onboard where they have a concern of a particular NGO partners. So MOUs with the donors and implementation projects of receipts and disbursals of funds respectively. So here also the way they maintain the MOUs, the way they maintain the contracts is also allow the auditor or allow any person or in fact allow the particular NGO to present their MIS or present their way of operating to meet the objective. So here I have seen that where there are 40-50 MOUs are there, and it has been handled by more than 20-30 account holders, and this 40-50 has been spread to the 30, and nobody knows what are the terms and conditions and when is the timelines, what is the delay damages. It is very interesting. Even though they give the donation, they ask NGO to do the delay damages or compensate delay damages when project not been completed well within the terms and conditions or well within the timelines which has been agreed. So when we ask, can you say that how many donors are onboarded during the period and how many MOUs are you entered it? We could see that some places NGOs could not offer the separate legal cell, but nevertheless they do not have a central depository of all these MOUs. So the reason, the answer what we get when we question this particular instance is that no, sir, there's a particular project or a particular account or a particular donor has been assigned to the particular account manager or revenue manager or project manager, and they are having the documents. One more practical problem faced by NGO is that when it comes to the separation of members of NGO, so handing over and taking over wouldn't have been taken place, and we have seen it has not taken place. Where are these MOUs? Finally, it is not there neither in the server nor in the mails. it was there in a personal laptop which has been given it to the particular project manager, and that laptop also has not been returned. So who is the loser? The loser is the NGO. How does it will have impact? It will have impact on a multiple folds when you will not be able to have a information with you, and donor will lose the confidence on you. You will not be able to substantiate with the third parties like us who do the audits or who comment on the policies, procedures, controls what an NGO has. So ultimately, it'll probably, I will not say directly, it will create a black mark to the NGO industry itself, but yes, it will have impact which is not good at an NGO level. So this is again the major executive summaries where especially the top trustees or the higher ups is not available, does not have a time to go through our detailed slides. We can bring it. Probably this is another way where we will give that these are the salary allocation, as I was telling that timesheet not maintained for salary allocation. Now the salary cost, if you take it is well within the limit of whatever the percentage has been agreed with the donor, are well within the statutory limits. But we, being a third parties, when we started looking at a project by project, you don't know whether correct salaries has been allocated to the efforts what they have spent on the particular project. Cash and bank investments, there are funds which has been idle for some time, could have been put in an FD and earn the interest. No consistency in following the cash basis of accounting. Yes, again, when it comes to the network NGOs, somebody would have been followed approval, somebody would have been followed on cash. When you try to consolidate it on a global level, you will never have a correct or exact information on your hands to present it to the higher authorities or present it to the government authorities. So again, HR department, if you take the size of an NGO at present, yes, there are bigger NGOs when we have discussed about either a CRI or a Infosys Foundation or a Tata Sons. They are the bigger NGOs, and they do have they operate like in a corporate. When it comes to the small NGOs where it is limited to the one particular place or one particular geography or one particular program, the HR department might really not be there. But the thing what we need to note here is that being an auditor or being an accountant, all the laws are applicable to the NGOs. There is no exception, be it a labor law, be it a shops and establishment, GST, direct taxes, indirect taxes, everything applies. And when it comes to the HR department, onboarding documents wouldn't have been there, F&F wouldn't have been there, no no due certificates would have been produced while they are terminating the employees or getting separated. These all have an implication on the project or implication on getting the donations, also get empaneled with the bigger NGOs on a specific network. So this is again, probably we can structure it in such a way that to give in a nutshell what is the observation, what is the root cause. So now all internal, what is the root cause for that, and what is the recommendation, whether the respective stakeholders has been agreed or not, along with the criticality of the risk and the root cause chart will help the trustees to take it forward, and will also help the audit team to standardize and calculate the reports to either at a individual level units or at a global level NGOs. Thereby, global NGOs also can represent it to the their main donors or the main trustees. So this is how probably I can feel, though it is nowhere it has been illustrated, these are all those things has to be covered. We feel this would be the good way of projecting the reports and executive committee presentations to the board when it comes to the NGOs. Over to you, Prasanna.
Yes. Now, after going through the internal audit report, since we've already got an insight on what is the audit documentation, let me take you through the slides what all the other things which we need to take care as an auditor to justify our work to the NGO. Just because it's a NGO, they should not tell that, okay, these are the documents only which is available with us. You can please do the audit and close. Or as an auditor, we need to take a professional judgment and say whether it is needed, this document is required, not required for the audit, to form an opinion, what all things we need, what all things we will overlook, or what all things we look, has to be documented. The first objective as an auditor is the basis of audit report or evidence of audit plan. What will be the basis of audit report when we form an opinion that the financial statements are free from material misstatements? As an auditor, when we submit our audit report to the members, to the board members, to the trustees, or to the donors, on what basis we are telling that the audit NGO is compliant with all the statutory requirements? We need to collect all the documents for that. Say, for example, whether it is a donation received through a local or an international fund, what all the things we need to check? Have we checked it? Have we documented? Yes, it is there. Evidence for the audit plan. Which members will be doing the audit? The team members. Are they sufficiently briefed about what is the audit? What is the organization into? NGOs are not into a normal organization. Since they have a special status, we need to take care about their NGO structure into consideration and then plan the audit. What is their network? Since the FCRA, foreign funds, if they have registered, the other NGO can give the donation to that particular NGO and utilize the funds. Whether that evidence has been told to the team member, how they have been briefed, whether it has been documented. See, at end of the day, the authorities will see our audit documentation, and based on that, they will judge whether we have done a neat audit or not. And it is not the trust who will be doing it. Second, how the working paper will be built or where it will be stored. Whether I need to collect all the hard copies, whether it can be in an electronic form. See, the NGOs which will be under a corporate governance or which will be under the corporate lens will have the soft copies. But in case if it is in a village, whether that NGO can be giving the electronic form or not. Considering those, the working paper can be in a form of paper, hard copy, or in a form of electronic form or any other media. Say, for example, they have given a CD or they have given the documents in a pen drive. That can be considered. Communication with the team. This is very critical. How the working paper has to be maintained. Say, for example, a bigger NGO audit has been conducted, which has 15 branches all across India. All the branches may not maintain the same sort of documentation depending on the size of the locations or depending on the size of the NGOs. That communication has to be done to the team members. According to the team can plan how the working paper has to be maintained. And the time would be given to assemble the audit file. Say, for example, in the rural area, an NGO is done. Here where the technology can be used, how the documents are stored, whether they can send it via WhatsApp, whether it is legal or not legal, whether they are able to send it, how the audit documentation has been maintained. It is not only required for the auditor, based on the management also, where the management will not be able to travel to all the location, how they are getting their MIS. That can be a useful documentation for an auditor, telling that how the working paper is maintained or how the documents is given for the auditor to verify and form an opinion on the audit report. Assemble of the audit file to close on timely basis. Once the audit of the NGO is done, there are certain timelines within which the working paper has to be built. Either it can be a paper or in a form of an electronic form. The chartered accountants who will be signing the financials has to consider that all the NGOs has a uniform accounting policies. How this basis will be formed? Whether just by looking at the NGO services, whatever they are renting, or whether the uniform accounting policy has been followed by each of the branches, whether that will be the basis. Depending on on the judgment of the working paper files which is built, the auditor who is signing the financials can form an opinion. Yes, this particular NGO who has more than 15 branches all across, for example, are following the same accounting policy or in spirit with the same vision and mission. Hence, this financial, whichever the auditor is signing, can form an opinion telling that yes, it is true and fair and it is free of material misstatements. Next will be the summary of the audit observations. This is very important. Why? Because the team members will be scattered into different locations, different branches. What are the observations they have? Whether it has an impact on the main head office, whether it has any material impact on the financials opinion formation itself, or whether that document, whether that branch itself is located or not. That will be a summary of the audit observations, which will be very much needed for a senior auditor who will be signing the financials. How it is addressed during the audit. Say, for example, if there is any issue in the donation, or if there is any issue in the registration or any statutory compliance, how the auditor will form an opinion, whether it has any material impact on the opinion which I am giving. That is how has to be documented. How it is documented. Same way as already told, whether it has a material impact, whether it does not have a material impact, or whether as a chartered accountant or as an auditor, can I help the NGO to frame a accounting policy? Or can I tell them, see, this is what you are following, may not be as per the accounting standard generally accepted. This has to be there, or this will help you for growing your organization. Can an auditor give that sort of opinion? It can be given, but before that, what is the audit observation which has been done? So whether it has been documented at one place, how the auditor addressed the inconsistency. As already told, there are head office and branches located all across. Whether there are any inconsistencies in the policies which is followed, whether the head office is doing the certain documentation or certain recording of the transaction on accrual basis, on whether the branch, because of some other opinion, they are doing it on a cash basis, whether it is correct or whether it is inconsistent. How the auditor who is signing the financials will form an opinion on that. For that purpose, the summary of the audit observation has to be maintained, and it has to be clearly communicated to all the team members to maintain the working paper file in the form of hard copy or electronic form. And a summary of them has to be given to the signing partner before the financial is placed to him, so that he will be comfortable or he will get a comfort before signing that particular financials or before signing that particular audit report. Or there can be a discussion with the management why this sort of opinion or why this sort of policy has not been followed in certain cases. There may be a restrictions from the government or authorities in that particular location. That may be a case. Maybe in case of a government donations, you will understand that government donations and the donation given by a individual or other corporates will not be same. The number of restrictions or the number of compliances with respect to the government grants will be much higher as compared to the corporate donations. Therefore, the working paper will be very critical, and how it has been maintained will be much more critical in forming the opinion of an audit report. Whether the company can have a different accounting policy within itself, within for a branch, that can be taken a professional call before giving the audit report. I think Shiva, you can just explain on the audit sampling, how it has to be taken.
So again, when it comes to the audit sampling, though directly it is not applicable to the NGOs which is not registered or which is not, rather it's a sampling for an auditors based on the auditing standards. So I would like to emphasize how it works when it comes to the NGOs, and especially when it is gets scattered or when it is not organized. So these are the excuses. Will not allow a chartered accountant or an auditor to take it as an excuse and explain it to the authorities when it comes to that, when it comes to the scrutiny, or when peer review happens, or when even for that matter, when a signing partner is asking for the documentation or a sampling, what is that? So it is not an excuse that they've not organized, it has not been in the soft copies, or it has not been in the accessible cases, or the restriction and the scope whatsoever it is. When it comes to the sampling, what I can feel is that, or what we follow, be it in a statutory audit or internal audit, any data which is available in the soft copy, when I say soft copy, be it in a PDF copy, system generated PDFs, or the internal documents which has been maintained in forms of Excel sheets, either the MIS or the weekly meeting data pointers, or probably I can say that the software reports. We don't limit our size, our sample size, or we don't do the audit on a sample, because those days have gone where I can, based on the guidelines or based on the senior auditor or the partner in charge instructs that this is how it has to be done. Now dynamics have been changed. There are many tools which are available to process the data. There are data analytics of every firm. I'm sure every member would have one or two data members, or the chartered accountant who is expertise in the data crunching. So this, when we start crunching the data, we will also get an insights, and when especially when the soft copies are available, there is no point of we selecting the samples. So I feel the same time will take it when you do it on a sample basis or when you do it on a holistic basis. So and when it comes to the hard copies which are available, that is where auditor has to spend some time by selecting the data. So now I'm sure no need to do it. Every document needs to be checked. When it comes to the statutory audit, it's again a materiality can be placed, and substantive procedures can be placed based on the sample data what we follow. Nevertheless, when it comes to the internal audit, I feel materiality and materiality will not work. Why materiality will not be able to consider when it comes to the internal audits? Because internal audit aims to concentrate more on the process and procedures than the materiality, or the compliances under various as per the MOU or the statute or the guidelines of the donor. Hence, we don't have a levy to do the materiality and select the samples. We end up selecting everything for that matter. Even as soon as you spend the staff welfare expenses, I think that is also subjected to the sample. But again, how do you do the sampling? It's a professional judgment. As far as our knowledge, probably I can say that less than 1% also will get selected for the samples, in terms of just to understand the process, just to understand what are the checks and balances, what they do it, what is their NGO process to approve the payments, and what are the controls do they have that the duplicate invoices has been submitted, or the same conveyance claim has been submitted under a multiple projects or in a multiple months. These are the places where usually we don't do it in a corporate audit or other where statutory audit requirement is there. Being an NGOs, the proprietariness, which is a key for an auditor, key for an accountant, key for every member who is involved in this NGO activities. So it also gives a self satisfaction to the auditor, saying that yes, though not, if it is a soft copies there, I think nowadays everything is available in the soft copies. At least majority of the data, I can say 60-70% is available in the soft copies, and the data 60-70% of data is subjected to the audit of 100%. When it comes to the supporting documents, nowadays there are multiple tools, multiple audit tools which are getting developed, which will establish you the audit trail, which will allow you to do the sample, not going for 100% of hard copies, 100% of an unconvertible PDF copies, be it in images or JPEGs or WhatsApp charts, all those stuff. There are softwares which will allow you to ensure that though you don't see all the expenses transaction by transaction, but evaluating or walking through the few transactions will give a confidence that the process has been followed, and whatever the samples you select to see the supportings is appropriate. So I would like to mention one practical implications over here. Now, majority places NGOs will not get, or based on their size and their activities, will not get registered under GST. But nevertheless, NGOs avail the procure the products or avail the services from the registered GST registered vendors. Now, if it is in other corporate entities, there is a scope to recheck with our 2A, 2B whether GST has been paid by the vendors or service providers properly to the department or not. When it comes to the NGO, that is the biggest question mark. How do we do? So interestingly, when we process the vendor masters, where vendor master size is 300, 400 members, out of 300 members, who is mentioned, whose invoice shows the GST registration number and the format as per the GST law. When we search in the GST master, which is maintained by the GST department, we see either GST has been number has been cancelled, or GST has been blocked by the government department, registration has been blocked by the government department, or they've registered under composition scheme, but they started charging at a regular rate. This is where being an auditor, when we go for a sampling, when we go use the data tools without going for a sampling, which will allow you, I can say proudly that a 3 to 4 lakhs out of expenses of 45 to 50 lakhs in a year for a small NGO is, which ideally should not have been paid, but it is ultimately paid to the GST vendor, and in return they have not paid to the department. Why they have not paid? One, intentionally they have not paid. Other places they have not registered at SIL, but still NGOs have paid. If at all they would have scrutinized, they would have, due care has been taken, they would have saved 3 to 4 lakhs, probably another 5, 10, 20 based on the project intended beneficiaries would have been got benefited. So sample size, in a nutshell, to conclude, the sample size can be a professional judgment, but we see wherever there is a soft copies can be 100%, wherever there is a hard copies, we can see with the help of process what they follow to ensure adequate documentation has been done. And being a safer side, we also can confidently say or can confidently form an opinion or give a report to the board or a trustees with the confidence that we would have verified 80 to 90% expenses. So with this, we would like to conclude the session for the day and take it up tomorrow. The even more interesting concepts like what is the future of an NGO, what is an audit, what is the new kinds of NGOs are getting registered, and how are they going to take it up the entire service sector to the next level. So at this point of time, we would like to, we will try to answer if anybody has a questions or share our views, or we are ready to take their views also to our practical approach and implement in and day out audits. Probably ma'am and Ravi sir can allow the participants to ask the questions, and
Yes.
we will try to help it.
Yes, sir. The participants are free to unmute themselves and they can post the queries. So any of the participants, if they want to pose any queries, if you have any doubt or query, you may please, you are free to unmute yourself and you can ask the speakers. Sir, that was a very comprehensive presentation.
Yes, sir. We are able to hear you.
Yes, sir. Madam, your thoughts on the presentation? Previously, you were not there for your opening remarks. You had some issue with your power at your side. Please go on, madam.
We are very much glad to get the opportunity to listen from the speakers who has a vast wealth of knowledge and who are the senior practice leaders for audit division of sizable and well-known chartered accountancy firm. and ensure that their practical exposure in audit field made you to enrich your knowledge and various professional opportunities available to the CS in NGO sector, and various issues where proper care should be taken by the auditors in audit of NGOs, and implication of auditing standards in SA 210, 230 and 240 in NGO sector. I thank both the speakers, Sivakumar Garu and Prasanna Kumar Garu, for your excellent deliberation, sir. Really, it's very much wonderful. Detailed deliberation made nobody have no queries. And members, I would like to share one more thing. As you all know, 54th Regional Conference of SARCF ICA is going to be held on 9th and 10th of December month. I request you all to register for the same and be part of its youth circles. Have a good day, and I request you all to please join for the next 2 more days on the topics auditing standards and the code of ethics. Thank you, one and all. Have a good day.
Yeah, thank you, madam, for those words. I may also inform the participants that your CPE credit will be awarded based upon your attendance. We will have an attendance log, and also some of you have posted your attendance in your chat box. So all those things will be taken into account, and the attendance will be definitely be credited to all those who have attended this program. But it may take a while, some time, because the attendance will mark it and send it to DLH. The DLH people has to upload the attendance, so it may take some time. So please bear with us, and definitely all the chartered accountants who have attended this session will be credited with CP hours. So I thank both the speakers, Prasanna Garu and Sivakumar Garu, for making this session very lively. And what are all the PPTs which you have displayed? They are very much informative, and we understand the effort which have gone into the preparation of those PPTs. And we may also request you, if you can share the PPTs, we will be able to the participants. You please, if possible, mail it to the Vijayawada branch mail ID, and we will share it to all the participants, because some of the participants will be asking for sharing of the PPTs. So it's up to share, sir. And also I may tell or inform the participants that this session is available on YouTube for any number of times replays. You can watch if you have missed some portions of this session, then you can, or if you want to listen it again, you can watch it on YouTube channel of Vijayawada branch of SARCF ICA. Friends, we will sign off for now, and we will meet you tomorrow with the same speakers. I request all of you to join for tomorrow's session. Thank you, one and all. Signing off. Good day. Good night.
Thank you, one and all.
Thank you.
Thank you for the Vijayawada branch for giving us an opportunity. We're more pleased to see more participants tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you each and every member who has participated, and thank you, Vijayawada branch. We'll